Before you even think about clicking away, listen to this carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is something 99% of men will never hear in their lifetime. And the ones who do, their entire reality with women changes forever. You're about to learn something that younger women will never admit out loud, but they feel it every single time they meet a man who carries this one specific energy. And once you understand it, once you embody it, she won't just notice you. She'll become drawn to you in a way she can't explain. So don't move, don't skip, don't blink, because this is the exact moment your life starts to shift. You're about to hear the truth that every other man around you is too afraid to confront. The truth that younger women feel, but pretend they don't. The truth that separates men she forgets in minutes from the man she thinks about for weeks. I'm going to show you the mindset that makes her lean in closer, the tone that makes her listen without realizing why, and the presence that makes her feel something she has never felt with men her age. This is not a game. This is not a line. This is not some trick to get her attention for 5 minutes. This is the psychology that makes a younger woman feel emotionally safe, mentally stimulated, and magnetically pulled toward you. And if you stay with me until the end, you will walk away with an understanding that turns you into the kind of man she never forgets. The man who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, and doesn't compete, because his presence speaks louder than words. Stay right here. What you're about to learn will change everything. You have to understand something that most men overlook for their entire lives. A younger woman doesn't get drawn to you because of the year you were born. She gets drawn to you because of the energy you carry into the room. She isn't responding to your experience. She's responding to the way that experience has shaped your presence. And presence is something you cannot fake, you cannot rush, and you cannot borrow from anyone else. It is the result of every challenge you've survived, every failure you've learned from, every moment that forced you to grow into yourself. When a younger woman interacts with you, she is not consciously analyzing your age, she is subconsciously reading your authority, your steadiness, the way you hold your own emotional center. She is comparing the calmness of your voice to the chaos she's used to. She's noticing the way you observe rather than react, the way you speak with intentional pauses instead of filling every second with noise. Younger men live in a rush. Older presence moves in rhythm, and rhythm is far more attractive than speed. Most younger women today are surrounded by men who speak with insecurity disguised as confidence. They brag, they exaggerate, they chase, they perform. And because she sees this every single day, her nervous system becomes familiar with instability. So when she meets a man whose energy is grounded, whose breathing is steady, whose words land with weight rather than desperation, her entire body picks up on it before her mind even understands why. It feels different, it feels rare, and rarity always attracts attention. Presence is not about trying to impress her, it's about making her feel yourself, assuredness without announcing it. It's the quiet confidence of a man who has nothing to prove because he already knows who he is. And when you walk with that kind of certainty, it creates a magnetic pull. She begins to lean in, not because you're loud, but because you're controlled. Not because you overwhelm the space, but because you own your space. You want to know why presence is more addictive than looks, status, or even experience. Because presence affects her emotionally, not just visually. She can admire a man's appearance, she can respect a man's success, but she only gets addicted to the man whose presence changes the way she feels about herself when she's around him. That's what younger men fail to understand. They try to trigger excitement. You trigger calmness. And calmness is where attraction deepens. A younger woman responds to the man who brings order into her internal world. The man who doesn't get rattled by her attitude, who doesn't become insecure when she gets quiet, who doesn't overact when she tests him. Instead, you hold your ground. You give her your attention without losing your strength. You stay aware without chasing validation, and that subtle balance of attentiveness and independence becomes intoxicating for her. She doesn't want chaos, she wants direction. She doesn't want a boy who mirrors her instability, she wants a man who neutralizes it. Presence communicates one key message: I'm comfortable with myself. When she feels that, she relaxes around you, she listens differently, she opens up faster, she trusts deeper, because presence is safety, and safety is the foundation of emotional attraction. And here's something most men never realize: presence is not in the words you say, it's in the energy behind those words. If you speak with a shaky voice, she feels your insecurity even if your words sound confident. If you try too hard to sound wise or charming, she feels the performance. But if you speak slowly, with calm certainty, with pauses that show you're thinking rather than rushing, she feels the weight of your presence. She feels a man, not a boy, a leader, not a follower, a grounded masculine energy, not a restless one. When you carry yourself like this, you're not just talking to her, you're influencing how she experiences you. You're shifting her emotional state. You're becoming someone she associates with clarity, with stability, with peace. And a woman always returns to the place where she feels most understood and most safe. That is why presence becomes addiction, because she's not addicted to the man. She's addicted to how the man makes her feel about herself. And once she feels that difference, once she experiences the contrast between your presence and the noise of the world she's used to, she starts to crave it. She starts to crave you, not because you're older, but because you're aligned, because you're intentional, because you've mastered what younger men haven't even recognized yet. So when you speak to her, don't try to impress her with your life, impress her with your stillness. Don't try to show her how much you've done. Show her how deeply you've learned. Speak not from ego, but from experience, and let your presence communicate the one thing she rarely feels today: emotional certainty, because the man who controls his presence becomes the man she cannot forget. When you speak to a younger woman, the biggest mistake you can make is trying to win her through performance. Most men don't even realize when they're doing it. They talk too much, they compliment too fast. They try to impress her by listing achievements she never asked about. They speak like they're applying for a position in her life, instead of speaking like a man who already knows exactly where he stands. And the moment you fall into that pattern, you lose your power. You have to understand that younger women are extremely sensitive to intention. They can feel when your energy is coming from confidence and when it's coming from insecurity. They can sense whether you're speaking to connect or speaking to convince. And nothing turns her off faster than a man who is trying to earn her approval. Because approval-seeking energy is the opposite of masculine leadership. The truth is, you don't attract a younger woman by trying harder, you attract her by going deeper. You shift her attention not by elevating your voice, but by elevating your intention. Younger men focus on what to say. A grounded man focuses on why he's saying it. And that difference changes everything. When you speak from a grounded place, your words carry weight. When you speak from a needy place, your words collapse under their own pressure. A younger woman has heard compliments all her life, so another compliment doesn't excite her, but a question that reveals you're actually listening. That shifts her, that slows her down, that makes her pay attention in a way she never has with men her age. She doesn't want perfect lines, she wants presence behind the lines. She wants depth behind the conversation. She wants a man who listens long enough to understand her, rather than preparing the next thing he wants to say. Listening is rare today, especially in men who feel they have something to prove. But when you're a man who doesn't need validation, you naturally listen with more clarity, because you're not trying to perform. You're trying to see her, and women become addicted to the feeling of being seen. When you speak to her, speak slowly. Not because you're unsure, but because you're intentional. Every word should feel like it has a purpose. Younger men talk fast because they're scared of losing momentum. A powerful man speaks in a way that creates momentum. There's a difference, and she feels it. Ask her questions that go beneath the surface. Ask her what inspires her, what she's afraid to lose, what she's building for herself, what she values in people. And when she answers, don't react instantly. Let her words settle for a moment. Let her see that you're actually processing her meaning, not just her beauty. That moment of reflection is what separates a man from a boy. It shows maturity. It shows emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is one of the strongest forms of attraction for a younger woman seeking depth in a world full of shallow conversation. But here is where most men get trapped. They think being deep means overly serious or overly intense. Depth isn't heaviness. Depth is clarity. Depth is intention. Depth is the ability to speak with simplicity while still carrying meaning. You don't need poetic lines or philosophical speeches. You need honesty delivered with confidence. You need to speak in a way that reveals you're not trying to manipulate her emotions. You're trying to understand them, and perhaps the most powerful thing you can do in a conversation is challenge her gently. Not in a disrespectful or confrontational way, but in a way that reflects you have standards, boundaries, and a mind that is not easily swayed. Younger women are used to men who agree with everything they say just to stay in their good graces. So when you respectfully disagree, or when you question her perspective because you genuinely want to understand, she feels intellectually stimulated. She feels intrigued. She feels attracted to a man who can think for himself. Speaking with depth means your words are not competing with her emotions. They're guiding them. You're helping her slow down. You're helping her see herself from a higher level. And that's why she keeps coming back. Because the man who helps a woman understand herself becomes the man she cannot let go of. When you stop trying to impress her, when you stop trying to fit into her world, you create space for her to want to enter yours. And that's the shift that makes her addicted not to your voice, but to the energy behind your voice. The energy of a man who speaks from self-respect, not self-doubt. So the next time you speak to her, remember this: a younger woman doesn't remember the words of the man who tried too hard. She remembers the presence of the man who didn't need to try at all. And that kind of presence will always be louder than any perfectly crafted line, because the man who speaks with intention becomes the man she listens to with her whole being. One of the most powerful dynamics you will ever understand about younger women is this: their attraction is not built on what you give them, it's built on what you ground in them. Younger women live in a fast, moving emotional world. Their lives are filled with uncertainty, pressure, expectations, and constant comparison. They feel everything deeply, even when they don't show it. So when she meets a man who stays centered while she moves through different emotional states, that man becomes unforgettable, not because he tries to fix her, not because he tries to control her, but because his presence brings order where she usually feels chaos. You have to realize that younger women are not testing your patience. They're testing your stability. When she's playful, she's reading your energy. When she becomes emotional, she's watching your reaction. When she challenges you, she's trying to understand if your confidence has roots or if it's just surface-level bravado. She's not looking for perfection. She's looking for consistency. And that consistency is what separates the men she forgets from the man she remembers. Younger men tend to mirror her emotional intensity. If she becomes a little distant, they panic. If she becomes excited, they overreact. If she becomes emotional, they take it personally. But you are not here to mirror her. You are here to hold your center. And that quiet stability becomes the space she feels safe in. The more she feels your grounded energy, the more she feels she can be herself around you. without fear of judgment or rejection. And this is where real attraction is built, because when you stay centered, you communicate something silently. I'm not shaken by you. Those words may never come out of your mouth, but she feels them. She feels them in your tone, in your posture, in your timing. She feels them when you pause before reacting. She feels them when you listen before responding. She feels them when she tries to create emotional waves, but you remain the calm beneath them. This doesn't mean you ignore her emotions or dismiss them. It means you don't drown in them. You acknowledge her feelings without letting them pull you out of your masculine frame. You validate her experience, but you don't abandon your own clarity. You stay calm because you choose to, not because you're indifferent. And that difference is everything. Younger women are drawn to older men, not because of age, but because of maturity of energy. When you stay grounded while she moves through her emotional cycles, she feels the kind of safety she rarely experiences with peers. She feels that she can express herself more freely. She feels she can open up without triggering insecurity. And once she feels safe enough to be vulnerable, she forms a bond with you that is deeper than attraction. It becomes emotional loyalty. This is why the man who stays centered becomes the man she returns to. Not because he chases her, not because he begs for her attention, but because she feels internal alignment when she's around him. When a woman feels that a man makes her more emotionally regulated, she naturally wants to be near him. Her nervous system becomes attached to the sense of balance you provide. This isn't manipulation, it's resonance. Masculine stability naturally harmonizes with feminine emotional expression. And this is where a lot of men fail. They think being grounded means being emotionless. But emotionless men are not attractive. They feel cold, distant, disconnected. Being grounded means you can feel emotions without being controlled by them. You can empathize without collapsing. You can stay composed even when the situation becomes unpredictable. And that level of emotional self-mastery is what younger women rarely find in men their age, which is why they find it so deeply compelling in you. When she sees that you don't compete with her energy, she relaxes into her femininity. When she sees that you don't react impulsively, she trusts your mind. When she sees that you don't lose yourself in her emotions, she starts to feel safe in ways she never has before. You become the calm she craves when life becomes overwhelming, and that's when addiction is created. Not through charm, not through strategy, but through emotional stability. You become the man who brings balance to her internal world. You become the man whose presence helps her breathe differently. You become the man who turns her chaos into clarity without saying much at all. So if you truly want to understand why younger women become so drawn to older masculine presence, it's simple. They're not looking for someone who outshines them. They're looking for someone who out-centers them. And that man becomes unforgettable because the man who masters his own emotions becomes the man who naturally leads hers.